Hello and welcome to another episode of the Entrepreneur Enlightenment TV. Today I have a very special guest and we're talking about an amazing topic, how to navigate challenge while maintaining happiness. I have Dr. Elia with me and he has been over 30 years in this practice and he is known for his ability to share practical tools for everybody to achieve and maintain happiness. So, Dr. Elia, please introduce yourself.
First of all, Irina, thank you for having me on your show. It's indeed an honor and a pleasure to be here. I'm Dr. Elia Gourgouris. I'm known as the Happiness Doctor. And my background, basically, I'm Greek. I was born in Greece, but raised in the United States, and you'll soon find out why we came to the US. I was a clinical psychologist for the first half of my career until I got burned out, which we'll also talk about, that process. And I'm an international keynote speaker about happiness and corporate wellness, bestselling author. But really, I'm just motivated by making a difference in people's lives. And I'm an executive coach. I work with companies with senior leadership for the most part to actually bring happiness to the workplace and employee engagement and all that stuff. So that's a little bit about me. And just happy to be here.
Yes, and I'm happy to have you with such a wealth of experience and expertise and what you've gone through your life and how many people you have helped and how much you have seen in terms of change. And I like that you bring happiness to the workplace because I know now it's a bit different. When I used to be in corporate about like 15, 20 years ago, that would not be a topic that you will gather the leadership team around, but that's such a positive sign. And it's through the work of people such as yourself that this is now possible. And we're talking about happiness at work. This is the Entrepreneur Enlightenment Show, and we always say that there is a purpose in everything and that we are called into our purpose. And I know your story starts with you losing your mom, and that's what actually led you into your purpose. Can you share that story?
Yeah, my mom, and my mom was this amazing, she was an angel, honestly. She was not just loved by men and women, she was beloved because she personified unconditional love and acceptance. Anyone that came into our home, she just loved them. She was this, wonderful mom. But unfortunately, she got cancer when she was 39 years old when we were in Greece, breast cancer. And back in the day, that was almost like a death sentence. So as a result of that, our family left a very good life actually in Greece. We had a really good life and moved to the United States in an attempt to prolong her life. And honestly, it worked because, had she died, then I would have been a 10-year-old little boy. She was able to live until actually I graduated from college. And there was the day of the graduation, actually, she was too sick to attend the graduation. I went to UCLA. I was getting my undergraduate at the time. My brother had just gotten his master's. So we both show up at the hospital in, cap and gown, the whole thing. And she looked at us from her hospital and she said, this is what I've lived for. I know you guys are going to be just fine. And then her health really went downhill and she died within a few months later. Her parting comment to me, though, was, now imagine this, and I was devastated. Like my mom was my best friend. I looked up to her. She was just a great role model. She said to me, don't worry about me. I'm going to be just fine, which is an interesting statement to make to someone who's about to die, right? And her final words to me, the last things I ever heard was, my boy, she said, this was in Greek, obviously, I just want you to be happy. Then she passed away, and that was it.
Wow.
Well,
So give me a moment because I'm feeling the energy and the emotion, like I'm feeling her spirit. So you said that she was an angel, and I feel like I am an angel communicator, so I feel her vibration and her energy, and I feel that her dedication to your life and to the life of your brother, but to the life, like to people on the planet, was her unconditional love, and also how she had stayed with you. So you were 10 years old, and losing a mom at 10 years old would have been devastating. And I don't know how that grieving process goes, but she stayed with you until you were on your path.
right.
And I feel that she kept herself here intuitively, I feel this, that she kept herself here to make sure that you're on your path and to make sure that you're here to fulfill your purpose. And
No,
her,
you're exactly right. That's exactly what happened, actually. I mean, that's exactly what happened.
yes, and her parting words basically gave you the script, like gave you, this is the direction. So then, of course, you lost her and you probably grieved. How did you actually took the last words and made it your life's work?
Well, honestly, for the first year after she passed away, I was so in the grieving process, I was so distraught. I was really lost. I mean, I may have been 22 years old, but I was like this boy that was completely lost without the direction, the support, and the love of my mom. And I remember I had a hard time getting out of bed. I didn't know what to do. I hadn't gone to graduate school yet. And honestly, I was talking to sometimes the guy, I'm like, not that I would take my life. I wasn't like suicidal, but I'm like, if I get hit by a bus today, I'm good because I just wanted to be with her. And that
Mhm.
lasted for a whole year. It was a very, very hard year. You know,
Mhm.
my dad was starting to drink even more. He was so distraught. I mean, my mom was the love of his life. So my brother left. So our whole family imploded basically. But on the 1 year anniversary of her death, something happened to me. Like her words came back. My boy, I just want you to be happy. And something snapped inside of me and said, you know what? The best way to honor my mom for the rest of my life is for me to find personal happiness and success. And it shifted me. You know, there was a shift that took place energetically. I don't know. I mean, I was 23 at the time, and my whole life shifted direction after that. And I mean, it was a tragic event, obviously, but I'm like, yeah, the best way to honor my mom is to live this happy life. It's
Uh-huh.
the best way to do it.
And did you hear her voice, or how did that come to you? Did it come in a dream, her words again, or did you hear the voice, or is just inside your brain?
It's basically was like my mom, okay, you're not honoring me by being sad and depressed. Like I know I've given you all the tools and I did stay, just like you said, Irina, I stayed in this on this earth long enough to see you to be on your path. You have the UCLA degree, you have what it takes. Now go and be successful. And the real success is not money, it's not anything like that. It's relationships and it's happiness. That's the real success in life. And
Wow.
that led me to the path as a psychologist and then as a coach and an author and all that stuff. I go back to that 1 year anniversary when something in my heart and my mind, because it was both. It wasn't just a mindset, it was a heart set too. Said, Elia, it's time to get up and live your best life.
It's not. I know maybe many of the viewers won't speak Greek, but I feel if you can say those words in Greek, we will understand them energetically.
I'm trying to remember. Ηλία, εγώ θα είμαι μια χαρά. Απλά θέλω να είσαι ευτυχισμένος. Να είσαι ευτυχισμένος. Ευτυχία. Ευτυχία means happiness in Greek. So that was it, you know.
Wow. I feel the energy. I feel the power. Wow. So then you went on and become like a very successful psychologist and you saw
Yes.
many people and then something happened. So tell me a little bit about success and how much you worked, and then tell me about what happened.
So when I exited as a clinical psychologist, I found out that the typical psychologist would last 10 years. And if they see 25 patient hours per week, that's considered full-time practice, right? Well, I did it for 18 years and I would see 45 people a week. My wife was like, you're going to have a heart attack. You're going to be like, you're working like, but I loved it. And for the first 16 years, I was thriving. I like how you have the word thrive in business while you follow your purpose. I was
Ah,
doing like, I love that you have that next to you, right? But at some point, my body started to break down. And I started to be like in physical pain. And at first I was ignoring it, but then the pain kept increasing. And at some point, you know, Irina, pain, whether it's physical or mental or emotional, at some point brings you down to your knees. So after 6 months of this, and the doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, I got down to my, and I prayed. I'm a spiritual person. I'm like, God, why is this happening to me? I'm raising my family, I have kids. And the voice was immediate, a very short message that said, Elia, I'm trying to take you in a different direction and you're not listening to me. End quote. That was it. Yeah, but this is the sad part.
ah,
Guess what I did with that information? I ignored it. It's true. I ignored it. So when you ignore, whether it's the voice of God, the Holy Spirit, your intuition, your higher self, whatever you call that voice, if you ignore it, you're going to pay the price. So
yeah.
6 months go by now again,
Yeah, because it says like at first it's a whisper, and then
Right.
if you ignore it, it becomes louder and louder, and then it's a
Exactly.
smack.
So now I'm a year into it, and I've been in and out of the emergency room. They really can't figure out what was wrong with me, but my pain was real, was not psychosomatic. Now I'm really desperate. Now I'm back on my knees again. God, why is this happening to me? And again, says Elia, I'm I'm telling you, I'm trying to take in a different direction, and you're not listening to me. And then it said, I want you to spread the light to a lot more people. Which was an interesting statement. And but in my head, I'm like, well, how am I going to make money doing that? I'm still thinking like in a like providing for my family, being a businessman.
Yeah.
And then the final statement was, and if you don't change your ways, I'm going to call you home by the time you're 50. Now, my mom died when she was 51. So dying at 50 was not like some, and that was shocking to me, right? So I went and talked to my wife. I'm like, I got to shut this practice down. I was afraid to. I was afraid to because I was making really good money. I was being of service to people. I had this great practice, but the message was loud and clear. So I started taking Fridays off. I start no more new referrals. I'm starting to wind down my practice, right? I started taking Fridays off as self-care days, take care of myself, which I never done before. But unfortunately, I got sicker. Even though I was working less hours, the 18 years of accumulation of all the things that I heard got, and at some point, 2 months before I retired, literally, I ended up in the hospital. 6 days, two surgeries.
Wow.
I almost died.
Oh.
And my doctor, at the end, I said to my surgeon, I said, why did this happen to me? Because I never want to be in this place. She goes, that's easy. Either excessive drinking, and I didn't drink, or excessive stress. So what had happened for 18 years, all the stress from people, whether they're talking about sexual abuse, divorces, I was storing it inside my body, and my body started eating itself. So, when you're in the hospital with all the tubes and all that stuff at night, it gets quiet. I had a lot of thinking that I needed to do. And I had a lot of conversation and I said, listen, to myself too, this will never happen to you again. It was so painful. I almost died.
Mhm.
And I'm 20 years older now. I am healthier physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. I am younger than I was 20 years ago because I decided that self-care is a non-negotiable.
And not carrying.
It's not selfish to practice self-care to take care. It's a non-negotiable. So now I've taken care of myself. And I'm telling you, I'm healthier now than I was 20 years ago. Isn't that crazy?
Congrats. It's congrats. It's you got the memo. You got the memo.
Yeah, but it almost cost my life. And what was the message? The message was, when you hear that voice, don't ignore it. Like
Yes.
I did. It
Yes.
was a
And
mistake.
this is a message that I give people over and over again, because when you hear that voice, don't ignore it. And if you ignore it, like you will have to kind of deal with it one way or another. I have a curiosity. You said you almost died. Did you have an NDE or
I
was,
didn't, but my body was shutting down. So basically, my liver was shutting down
oh,
because there was some, I don't want to get into the medical technical.
yes.
I had my gallbladder, my bile, all that stuff.
Yes, yes. I was just
But
curious if spiritually you had a near-death experience,
no,
like if
but
you felt
when
like you
the
left
doctor
the
said,
body.
I didn't have that, but the doctor said, had you waited another day or two, because once your liver shuts down, you're done. There's nothing they can do about that,
Yeah.
right? At first, I thought I had hepatitis, which I didn't have. And they were concerned about all kinds of things. Anyway, the bottom line is that was such a strong message. I'm like, man, I got so close. And had
Mhm.
I listened the first time, I wouldn't have been as sick.
Mhm. Well, but maybe you wouldn't be so good at teaching people that we can do happiness, right? Because it
That's
gives you like an extra message because you've been there and you tested the waters, and you now can tell people like when you navigate challenges, you can maintain your happiness, you can maintain because you had the challenge, and a health challenge and a health scare like this. It's a big challenge that people will
yeah.
listen to. So then tell me, okay, you got over that. Then how did you get that successful of helping so many people with the happiness message?
Well, a part of it was I wrote this book called Seven Paths to Lasting Happiness, and it became a #1 bestseller, been translated into 5 languages, including Greek, I'm really proud of that. And that really opened up a lot more doors for my speaking, not just in the United States, but speaking internationally. And it became like my business card. And By the way, the books that I've written, I wrote it from my heart, not as a PhD. I wrote it the way I'm talking to you right now, like very practical. This is how you do it. It's not theories.
Research is not researcher.
Not at all. Not at all. But it's based on my experience for the last 35 years in working with people, and my patients or my clients taught me a lot of these things. It's through
Mhm.
so I know that these practices actually work. If you do the work, you will find happiness. And even though happiness is a choice, it's really a skill set. Like we can
Mhm.
learn,
Mhm.
right? It's a
Mhm.
skill set. If we do certain things on a consistent basis, then we're going to be happy.
Mm. One of the themes that you mentioned to me is about releasing toxic
Oh,
relationships.
yeah.
Would you, I think this would be like, I know with people that I work with and people that I interact, that's really hard, especially for people that are kind and loving. They say, okay, to cut people off or not to help people who don't want to help themselves. So I see that in my practice with my clients, this is like the most difficult thing for people that are kind and loving to release relationships. So enlighten me a bit. Tell me and tell the audience, how is that done?
So let's say you practice all the self-care in the world and self-forgiveness and self-compassion, and you practice gratitude and you do all the things that are important, but you surround yourself with toxic people, that's going to rob you of your happiness.
Describe toxic people. Like, give me a definition.
Yeah. Toxic people are negative people. Toxic people are people that drain you. Like when you interact with, they drain you from energy, right? They're unhappy, they're miserable, and they spread that misery, right? And
Pessimistic.
of course, pessimistic. Yeah, they're just miserable. They criticize. They're angry. They're frustrated. They're just. And I don't have toxic relationships in my life, and people don't believe that. I'm like, are you really serious? I'm like, yeah, I've eliminated all toxic relationships from my life. And they've said, well, what if it's your family? I'm like, especially in your family. Of course, it's part of your family. Every family has somebody who's like, toxic. But they're like, well, how did you do it?
Uh-huh.
The
Tell us.
process is very simple. The first part is, how do you show up in relationships? In other words, in my relation with you, Irina, if I show up with love, kindness, and respect, I need to do that first. Then I have every right to expect that you would treat me with love, kindness, and respect in return. But I can't be a jerk and expect you to be kind, loving, and respectful. So it always starts with us. We have to look in the mirror and say, how am I showing up in my relationships?
Mhm.
Am I being loving, kind, and respectful? If that's the case, then you go to the second step. Second step is, I ask you, do I treat you with love, kindness, and respect? You said, yes, you do. Okay, then I expect you to do the same. And if you're not going to do that with me, then either we're going to have a very superficial relationship, like how's the weather, and you're not going, or we're not going to have any relationship at all until you begin to treat me with love, kindness, and respect. I want to have a relationship with you, but you can't be disrespectful or unkind or toxic towards me. That's over.
Yes.
And
But you
most
know what?
people, when
Mhm.
when you say that to them, most people actually step up, believe it or not.
I will ask you about telling people because I think that's interesting. In my experience, like I personally was abused as a child, and I work with people who come from that. So because our parents, which we love as being children, treat us not with respect, then it's hard for us to go into the world and expect to be treated with kindness, love, and respect. So for people who come from like an abusive situation in their family of origin, they have to learn that they deserve respect. They have to learn that they deserve kindness. Like even to this day, kindness of strangers make me cry because I feel as if I'm not deserving of kindness, if you may, right? So kindness that I get unexpected makes me cry, but I have been learning and I'm stepping up more and more to expect kindness, especially from people that I'm kind to. So tell us then the next steps into talking with the person and then going towards eliminating.
Yeah, the last step, of course, is to hold on to those boundaries. And you have to say, like for me, my soul, I can't be around toxicity and negativity anymore because I bring a lot of positivity. So I expect that in return. So is it a boundary? It is a boundary when I say with people, but it's a healthy boundary. And I'm not saying I never want to have a relationship with you. I'm saying as long as you're toxic towards me, you're not going to have an intimate relationship with me. It could be very superficial or none. And I'm okay either way. And most people who want to have a relationship with us will make the adjustments. And if they don't, then you hold them accountable. You yelled at me yesterday, you're banished for another 6 months. Come back in 6 months, hopefully you have a better relationship with me. That's it.
Yes, yes. And I like why you say like you can have a superficial relationship, because like if it's your family member and you cannot really send them away, but at least you don't invest anything in that relationship and you just go through the motion and say, yeah, the weather is nice, today rain.
Yeah, but most people, when you talk about they don't want to be thought of as having a superficial. They want to have a real relationship.
Yeah.
So when you say to them, it's either going to be superficial or nothing, or you can be kind and loving and respectful, then we can have a full relationship. A lot of people actually choose the third option. They do try, believe it.
You give me an example, because I mean, you don't have to say the person name, but I feel like that will give hope to so many people that in fact you can claim your boundaries and people will smarten up, if you may, or I don't know how.
I will give you an example. I'm not going to say his name, but he was a family member who for the longest time, and I was like, Elia, just so we can have peace in the extended family, don't say anything. So for 20 years, I swallowed it. I didn't say anything. And finally, I blew it. I blew a gasket, and I had a conversation with him. And when he said to me, are you telling me I'm the only toxic person in your life? And I said, actually, you are the only. And he got very quiet. And I got quiet. And I'm like, I don't know what's. And he thought about it. And he was 60 years old at the time. So it means that anybody can change. He leaned into me. He said, I don't want to be the only toxic person in your life. I don't want to be like that. And I'm like, well, I don't want that either, but I'm not going to put up with your behavior anymore, period. And to his credit, he changed.
Bless
at
his
60. He changed.
Bless his heart. Because the thing is,
which wasn't easy, by the way, because he was very sarcastic. He had anger issues, and he was just a very sarcastic human being and toxic, But he changed.
Because the thing is this, because I love everyone. So those toxic people are toxic to themselves. So you actually helped him not only have a better relationship with you, but have a better relationship with himself, because somebody to put anger out, they have anger inside. So, I'm so happy to hear that at 60, there is always hope, there is always light, and there is always an opportunity to change. So coming back to the title, if you can give like an overarching statement, navigate any challenge while maintaining happiness.
First of all, my parting statement is this: do not procrastinate your happiness. In the post-pandemic world, because a lot of people have done a lot of thinking about it, right? Most people live in the future. They're like, when? And then you can be, when I'm in the right relationship, when I have a family, when I have kids, when my kids grow up, when I retire, when I have enough money, forget all the whens. Live your best life now, because there are no guarantees any one of us is going to be here tomorrow. None of us. We don't know how long we're going to be here. So don't procrastinate your happiness. Don't wait for the whens. Then the whens never come, actually. You just keep postponing and delaying living this great life and a happy life. So don't procrastinate it.
One tool for happiness, so let's say the viewer says, okay, I'm not going to procrastinate, give me one tool.
I think the biggest thing is self-forgiveness, honestly. People are really hard on themselves. They're so hard on themselves. And I know this as a psychologist and as a coach and as an author and a speaker. So I think self-forgiveness, Irina, is the ultimate act of self-compassion.
Yes, I've done a lot of self-forgiveness, and even for things that I am not guilty of, like when I work, I have a program called Child Innocence. I have this mantra, I'm innocent, because I'm empathic. So if somebody's upset, somehow I think somehow it's my fault. So I have to remind myself all the time, I'm innocent, it's not my fault. I forgive myself, I've done nothing wrong. So this was a great episode, such a great story, great I don't want to call them tips, because I feel they were more than tips. They were like life lessons for everyone to share. I hope for the audience, I hope you enjoyed this episode and you will join me next week for another amazing guest.